Like, I can't. The ability for somebody to be able to believe in something just because it's outrageous and wild is um, crazy if there's no evidence. You can't, you're taking it based on faith. It's no longer about what could be true, it's what you feel to be true. The feelings are what's actually true instead of the actual event itself.
Yeah, and I need to make a distinction, on that point. And we're told to use discernment, right? So, okay, fine. We need to use discernment. So, in using discernment, if where we end up is that the guy is full of it, speaking, of course, about the public figure Corey Goode and all of his cronies, if we're using discernment and we're saying to ourselves, okay, this doesn't make rational sense. It doesn't make rational sense. And then, I got attacked and I got threatened. Now, I've noticed something. I've only been threatened on videos I make that mention the Sphere Being Alliance, Corey Goode, and David Wilcock. Most of the time together, although on a few other videos, I've gotten also some other types of threats there. Now, come on.
I know that you can't go into specifics because this is something that's being taken care of by law enforcement at this point, and I know that for me, when I first started this show, I told anybody, like, if you're going to come on and you're going to try and troll, if you're going to threaten, then I'm just like, you're barking up the wrong tree. But I know that you've gotten it. I know that Dark Journalist has gotten some. I'm not sure if CW has gotten any. Threats, as it were. Can you go into the nature of these threats without being specific, or is this something that...
They are threats that are being taken seriously by the law enforcement members that I've given them all to and continuing to. They're state and federal law enforcement agents, and they take it seriously. I'm not, on the payroll, but I'm just your average dumbass that doesn't like getting threatened, and I just won't put up with it.
Why do you think people are threatening you?
I think the reason why people are threatening me is because I take a purely rational, logical stance toward looking at these people, that these claims, and people don't like rational and logical. People like entertainment. They like the emotional thing. Let's do a discharge of emotion and get all upset and get irrational and illogical. The problem is that can be very threatening, especially when you have a group of people, let's call them the Gray Box Alliance.
The Gray Box Alliance.
Yeah, let's say the Gray Box Alliance is a cult. And in order to have a cult, the Gray Box Alliance needs to stifle the views of other people. There was actually a very famous book written by a number of clinical psychologists back in the 60s called When Prophecy Fails. By the way, the same guy in that book, Leon Festinger, also wrote and developed the theory of cognitive dissonance. And in that book, they talk about how people have to give up their previously held views. People in the Gray Box cult have to sort of dispense with all of their worldly possessions. And so I think there's a bit of element as well to these kinds of threats because, hey, if people tune in to me because I'm criticizing a narrative, even though that's all they have is a narrative, well, then maybe they can just intimidate me. I'm not going to back down. And I'm also not open to other forms of attack that might not necessarily be physical. So anyways.
And jump on the, as I like to be able to call it, the Gaia TV money dick at some point. And it's like, take everything I say with a grain of salt, and do your fucking research. And that's my disclaimer. I'm trying to be able to lead by example to say there's a disclaimer. And I'm noticing when you're talking about being able to criticize an organization, being able to criticize a company for the way that they operate, for the way that they make money. You're able to do that as long as you're not, Like I'm giving an opinion. I'm giving my opinion as a radio host, and this is the whole idea of talk radio. My basic opinion is if you're looking at anything that has been broadcasting secret space program or cosmic disclosure, they're always going to have the attitude that it's the discernment of the people who listen. It's up for them to be able to make their minds. Well, at the same time, even if you're doing that, if you give these individuals a forum knowing that it's false, you're not doing your proper research, and you're saying, well, we're just giving them a forum. No, your only intent is to ensure that you have listenership and a listener base so that you can grow your revenue. That is the only fucking reason you do it. When you also appear at the talks with these individuals, that then becomes a conflict of interest because you're essentially promoting these individuals and their message. It's not about finding truth anymore. It's about making fucking money. It's very disheartening because they're afraid, yes, they're afraid that if the movement gets big enough, they're going to lose money. That's the only reason you will see people like Corey Goode and David Wilcock talk about the Dark Alliance, which obviously, as you know, refers to Dark Journalist, or the Cabal, which I don't even know what the fuck that is. Name some fucking people. And anytime there's criticizing, whether it's at on radio, on Facebook, on social media, they circle the wagons to protect their investment. That's the only thing it's about. This doesn't, he's providing no evidence. He's just saying, this is my story. And I can say, okay, this is your story. What fucking proof do you have to say this is actually true? You're saying, this is my story and people are going to believe it. And it's not about truth-seeking anymore. It is about, plain and simple, show me the money. Give me the cash, because you're getting marching orders from someone up higher up the executive ladder. I want to know what you know about, what is your perspective on Corey Goode and the Grey Box Alliance? I'm not sure if you can actually say it. I'll say it. Corey Goode and the Sphere Box Alliance, or as I call him, Space Jesus and the Bullshit Alliance. What is your perspective on that?
I think that Corey Goode, the public figure, did a very, very shrewd and dishonorable thing when he came on Cosmic Disclosure and in the 2 years prior. What I believe is that Corey Goode amalgamated, he brought together from every experiencer, abductee, contactee, military abductee, every little story within ufology, within the study of aliens, within inner earth stories, etc. He brought all that together, and he and or someone else together put it into a story that was palpable, and then delivered it to the masses through this process of cosmic disclosure. And I have to tell you, when I watched the first episode, or maybe it was up to the fourth episode, I didn't believe the story, but I was like, okay, I'm going to suspend my disbelief to see whether this is even worth checking out. Mm-hmm. Then when I saw how intricate the story became, I was like, there's a lot more going on here than just some idiot making up a story. This is being foisted upon paying consumers, where there's zero oversight, even though the people at Gaia claim that they vetted him, but he was never really appropriately vetted. And so I started asking myself all these questions, like, wait a minute, what would it be like if he's an intuitive empath? How would an intuitive empath be able to effectively deliver a true story of all these experiences in a way that was believable? Somebody that spent 20 and back, or 60 or 90 or 200 years and back in the secret space program, their job was an intuitive empath, and this guy is the ambassador of planet Earth to the entire galaxy. He is not believable. He does not develop or present the story in an emotionally convincing way. Right? And then he says, okay, so then let's do a lie detector test. Now, can't do a lie detector test because my anxiety is so high that I couldn't do that. And the same thing with the regression. Well, wait a minute. You're saying that you're an intuitive empath. The emotional realm, the emotional sphere, no pun intended, or maybe it was, is your gravy. It's what you've done for 20 years nonstop. So for somebody that has that level of experience, they should be able to walk into a lie detector test or walk up to a clinical registered licensed hypnotherapist and be able to do a regression for memories that were repressed versus screen memories. So it doesn't, his story doesn't make sense even if you get into the way that he presents things and put yourself in his place. It makes no sense. Somebody that is a true intuitive empath dealing with extraterrestrials and beings underneath the ground in the honeycomb earth, somebody would be totally freaking out the first time they had that experience. And then over the course of time, over a systematic, graduated way, they would have less and less anxiety. They would have more control over their panic attack response, not less. And so a simple lie detector test or a simple hypnotic regression should be the least anxiety-provoking thing for this individual if they really do have this level of intuitive empath experience and all these different crazy events.
Assume that if a lie detector test is high anxiety for somebody and they're going to be asked certain questions like, have you been in contact with blue avian aliens? And you say yes, that's not going to be very anxiety-inducing. What could be anxiety-inducing is if it's like, okay, so this is going to be something that's going to be published and I'm going to be found out if it's false. That would be anxiety-inducing to me,